Good morning students, I am Shomajit sir. Today I am here to deliver my lecture on topic gases exchange or transport of gases. Okay, so we'll see how the gases exchange taking place and how they are transported. So this is from the chapter breathing and exchange of gases. So stay at home, stay safe. So without any delay, let's start with the topic exchange of gases and transport of gases from the chapter breathing and exchange of gases. So let's start. So let's start with the topic gases exchange. So you can see exchange of gases. So gas exchange occurs between alveoli and blood and tissue. Okay, so gaseous exchange takes place between alveoli and blood and tissue. So you can see the alveoli sacs. Alveoli is a unit of lungs. So alveoli are the primary site of gases exchange. Okay, so alveoli are the primary site of gases exchange, and oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged by simple diffusion. So oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged by simple diffusion process. You can see in right hand side the blood flow. Okay, so you can see the pulmonary arteriole, then you can see the pulmonary venule where the blood flow is coming back, then the capillary network, isn't it? Arteries, veins. So arteries are dividing into arterioles, veins are dividing into venules, and these arterioles and venules get connected into a capillary. Okay, so their gases exchange takes place by simple diffusion process. Now what are the factors influencing gas exchange? Okay, so what are the factors influencing gas exchange? So gas exchange depends on the following factor. One is pressure and pressure or concentration gradient. Second is solubility of gases. Third is thickness of membrane. Fourth is surface area of respiratory membrane, that is lungs. Okay, so first is pressure or concentration of gradient. Second is solubility of gases. Third is thickness of membrane. Fourth is surface area of respiratory membrane or lungs. Okay, so let's see the first one, that is pressure or concentration gradient. So the individual pressure of a gas in a gas mixture is called partial pressure. Okay, so the individual pressure of a gas in a gas mixture is called partial pressure. So partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay, so the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide, that is PO2 and PCO2. So partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of carbon dioxide are given below. So you can see respiratory gases, partial pressure of oxygen mmHg and partial pressure of carbon dioxide mmHg. You can see atmospheric air for partial pressure of oxygen is 159, and this side partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 0.3, and in alveoli you can see 104 partial pressure of oxygen, and this side carbon dioxide partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40. Then the deoxygenated blood having a partial pressure of oxygen is 40 and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 45. This side oxygenated blood having a partial pressure of oxygen 95 and carbon dioxide, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40. You can see the differences. And the tissue we have oxygen partial pressure is 40 and this side partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 45. So you can see in right hand side the diagram is given. You can see the inspired air and expired air. So inspired air, when the air is getting inside, okay, when we are inhaling the air, so in the alveolar sac you see the partial pressure of oxygen is 104 and carbon dioxide is 40. Okay, so that's why the air is getting inside. So air is getting inside due to the difference in the gradients. So now next you see this side the pulmonary vein and this side the pulmonary artery. So we know that pulmonary vein carries deoxygenated blood and pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood. Okay, and pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, because we know that arteries carry oxygenated blood and veins carry deoxygenated blood, but the exceptions are pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. So pulmonary veins carries oxygenated blood and pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. That's why pulmonary vein is given in red color. That's why that is a oxygenated blood carrying. And pulmonary artery, you can see pulmonary vein is given on the red color on the right hand side. That's why it's a oxygenated one. And pulmonary artery is given on the left hand side, that is a deoxygenated one. Now you can see due to the difference in the pressure gradient, okay, partial pressure of oxygen carbon dioxide, you can see partial pressure of oxygen is 104 and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40 in the alveolar region. That's why the air gets inside. Next you can see in below, you can see in the systemic artery arteries, that is oxygenated blood they are carrying, that time the partial pressure of oxygen is decreased, that is 95, and partial pressure of carbon dioxide remains same, that is 40 mmHg. Okay, now in the body tissue you can see there is exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. You can see systemic veins, that is in deoxygenated blood, the partial pressure of oxygen is now reducing and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is increasing. You can see partial pressure of oxygen is 40 and carbon dioxide is 45. So previously the oxygen level were higher, now it's as they are going inside, the oxygen level is going downer and the carbon dioxide level will increase. Okay, so partial pressure in alveoli is more, that is 104 mmHg than that of blood capillaries, that is 40 mmHg. So oxygen diffuse into capillary blood. Okay, so partial pressure of carbon dioxide in deoxygenated blood is more, that is 45 mmHg, that then that in alveolus, that is 40 mmHg. So carbon dioxide diffuses in alveolus. Okay, so right hand side this diagram is very important, you have to practice it. Now the second factor is solubility of gases. So solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times higher than that of oxygen. Okay, so solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times higher than that of oxygen. So the amount of carbon dioxide that can diffuse through diffusion membrane per unit difference in partial pressure is much higher than oxygen. Okay, so carbon dioxide that can diffuse through diffusion membrane per unit difference in partial pressure is much higher than that of oxygen. So you can see the solubility difference between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay, you can see the differences. The top one, you can see partial pressure of oxygen is 100 and this. Okay, you can see the diffusion is going on, and bottom there is a partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Okay, top one is partial pressure of oxygen one and bottom one is carbon dioxide one. So how they are solubling, okay, how they are mixing. So next, factors influencing gases exchange, next is thickness of membrane. Okay, so diffusion membrane is made up of three layers. So diffusion membrane is made up of three layers. So you can see, again I repeat, diffusion membrane is made up of three layers. One is squamous epithelium of alveoli, next one is endothelial of alveolar capillaries, and third is basement substance between them. Okay, so basement substance between them. So you can see its total thickness is only 0.5 micrometer. It enables easy gas exchange. Okay, so you can see the three labelings are given: squamous epithelium, basement epithelial substance, and the endothelium. You can see the red blood cells. Okay, you can see the alveolar wall, you can see the alveolar cavity, you can see the air, you can see the blood capillaries. Okay, next, factors are surface area of respiratory membrane. Okay, that is lungs. So surface area of respiratory membrane, that is lungs. You can see the surface area of a human lungs is equal to a tennis court. Okay, so the surface area of a human lungs is equal to a tennis court. You can imagine that. So the pressure of alveoli increases the surface area of lungs, it increases gas exchange. Okay, so next we move to gas transport. Okay, where carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange is taking place. So in the transport of gases, it is a transport of respiratory gases. Which are the gases? One is oxygen and carbon dioxide from alveoli to the systemic tissue and vice versa. Okay, so there is exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So you can see transport of gases, two are given. One is oxygen transport, that is from lungs to tissue, and carbon dioxide transport from tissue to lungs. Okay, so these are vice versa. So oxygen transport is from lungs to tissue and carbon dioxide transport is just reverse, that is tissue to lungs. So in the oxygen transport, you can see in physical solution, that is blood plasma, so it is transported by two ways. One in physical solution, that is by blood plasma, and another as oxyhemoglobin. Okay, whereas the carbon dioxide transport can be taken in ways, can be done by three ways. One is as carbonic acid, as carbaminohemoglobin as bicarbonates. Okay. Now moving to oxygen's transport. So in physical solution, that is blood plasma, 3% of oxygen is carried by dissolving in plasma. Okay. So in physical solution, that is blood plasma, 3% of oxygen is carried by dissolving plasma. Next one, as oxyhemoglobin, 97% of oxygen is transported by hemoglobin. Okay. So as oxyhemoglobin, 97% of oxygen is transported by hemoglobin, red colored iron containing pigment on RBC. So can you imagine, out of the 100% of oxygen, only 3% of oxygen is carried by plasma, okay, by blood plasma, and 97% of oxygen is transported by hemoglobin that is present in the RBC. Okay. So you can see right hand side the RBC structure, the hemoglobin molecules. Heme means iron unit. Okay, hemoglobin, heme means iron, globin means protein. So 1 molecules of iron carry 4 molecules of oxygen. Now as oxyhemoglobin, you can see oxygen binds with hemoglobin in a reversible manner to form oxyhemoglobin. This is called oxygenation. Okay, so this is a reversible reaction. Okay, so oxygen binds with hemoglobin in a reversible manner to form oxyhemoglobin. This is oxygenation. Hemoglobin has 4 heme unit. Okay, so hemoglobin has 4 heme unit each. So each hemoglobin molecules carry 4 oxygen molecules, as I have said just now. One hemoglobin molecules carry 4 oxygen molecules. So hemoglobin plus 4 oxygen, you can see in lungs. Okay, it forms hemoglobin 4, Hb4O8. Okay, and when in tissue, it's a reverse is going on, so it's a reversible reaction. So binding on oxygen, okay, so binding of oxygen depends upon, so this binding of oxygen, okay, so this binding of oxygen depends upon partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Here the hydrogen ion concentration, that is depends upon the hydrogen ion concentration and temperature also. Okay, again I repeat, so the binding of oxygen depends upon partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide, hydrogen concentration and temperature. So in alveoli there is high PO2 and low CO2. Okay, so in alveoli there are high partial pressure of oxygen and low partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So lesser hydrogen ion concentration and lower temperature. So these factors favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin. So in tissues, low PO partial pressure of oxygen and high partial pressure of carbon dioxide and high hydrogen ion concentration and higher temperature exist. Okay, so this is just the reverse as present in alveoli. Okay, so hemoglobin dissociate to release oxygen. So have you seen the tissue and alveolar configuration? So each or every 100 ml of oxygenated blood can deliver around 5 ml of oxygen to the tissue under normal physiological condition. Okay, so again I repeat, every 100 ml of oxygenated blood can deliver around 5 ml of oxygen to the tissue under normal physiological conditions. So you can see the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. This curve is important. You can see it's a sigmoid curve because it's a H-shaped curve obtained when percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen is plotted against partial pressure of oxygen. Okay, so you can see in the x-axis there is a partial pressure of oxygen, and then the y-axis you can see the percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. So it is used to study the effects of factors like partial pressure of carbon dioxide, hydrogen ion concentration, etc. on binding of oxygen with hemoglobin. So these are plotting given. This is very important. You have to study this. So again I repeat, it is a study. It is used to study the effect of factors like partial pressure of carbon dioxide, hydrogen ion concentration, etc. on binding of oxygen with hemoglobin. Now next we see carbon dioxide transport. Okay, so in tissues, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high due to catabolism, and partial pressure of oxygen is low. Okay, so in lungs the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low and partial pressure of oxygen is high. It's just a reverse between lungs and tissue. So this favors carbon dioxide transport from tissue to lungs. Okay, so it occurs in three ways. One is as carbonic acid, as carbaminohemoglobin, and as bicarbonate. Okay, so you can see 93% is diffused in RBC and 7% is dissolved in plasma. So out of the 93% that diffusion in RBC, it's 23% combines with hemoglobin and 70% combines with bicarbonate ion. So first one, as carbonic acid. So in tissue, 7% of carbon dioxide is dissolved in plasma water to form carbonic acid and carried to the lungs. Okay, so again I repeat, in the tissue 7% of carbon dioxide is dissolved in plasma water to form carbonic acid and carried to the lungs. Okay, so you can see carbon dioxide plus water, it forms carbonic acid. Okay, so from the tissue it's collect carbon dioxide, and from the plasma water, and it forms a carbonic acid. So you can see the tissues and capillary figure given. Next one, as carboamino hemoglobin. Okay, so in tissues 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide binds with hemoglobin to form a carboamino hemoglobin. So in alveoli, CO2 dissociates. Okay, in alveoli CO2 dissociates from carboamino hemoglobin. Okay, so in alveoli CO2 dissociates, or carbon dioxide dissociates from carboamino hemoglobin. So you can see carbon dioxide plus HbNH2 in tissues and lungs. This is a reversible reaction. It forms carboamino hemoglobin. That is full form. Formula is what is the formula? HbNHCOH. Okay, so third one you can see as bicarbonate ion. So about 70% of carbon dioxide is transported by this method. Okay, so RBC contain an enzyme that is carbonic anhydrase, so it is tightly present in plasma too. So at tissue site it facilitates the following reaction. So you can see carbon dioxide plus water under carbonic anhydrase. This is a reversible reaction. It forms carbonic acid, and again under carbonic anhydrase is a reversible reaction, is dissociate into HCO3 minus and hydrogen ion. Okay, so you can see the body tissues and blood capillaries and lungs. You can see the exchange going on. So in alveoli the above reaction proceeds in opposite direction, leading to the formation of carbon dioxide and water. Every 100 ml of deoxygenated blood delivers 4 ml of carbon dioxide to alveoli. Okay, this is important. Thank you students. This was all about the entire lecture. We have discussed about the topic gases exchange and transport of gases. So this is from the chapter breathing and exchange of gases. So stay at home, stay safe. I am Shomuji sir signing off for today, and again we'll meet in the next class. Thank you students.